All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's session, Why You Need Disaster Recovery, Purpose Built for the Cloud. Today's speaker is Andy Fernandez, Director of Product Marketing here at HYCU. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask away in the questions tab. I'll be back at the end to share those questions that you have with Andy. But for now, I'm just going to turn it right over to him, and everyone enjoy the session.
Thanks, Matt. I appreciate the warm welcome. I want to thank everybody here for their attention today. I really appreciate your time. So let's get started. My name is Andy Fernandez. As Matt mentioned, I'm the Director of Product Marketing here at HYCU. The title of today's session is Why You Need Disaster Recovery, Purpose Built for the Cloud. So with that in mind, let's take a look at our agenda. We're going to do a quick introduction to who HYCU is. What is HYCU Protege? Who are we? What kind of customers do we have? And we're going to talk through the evolution of disaster recovery, not just around how these strategies have evolved, but the types of challenges and recovery scenarios that organizations are seeing. And then we're going to talk through what are the challenges behind finding the right data protection service for the cloud. And when I say data protection, I mean mainly for today's conversation, disaster recovery and backup. And then ultimately, we're going to take a look at what's the secret sauce behind HYCU Protege when it comes to hybrid and multi-cloud data protection. So let's get started. So as a quick who we are, introduction to HYCU, we are headquartered in Boston. We have more than 300 employees globally. But one of the most important things about who we are and our nature, it's in our DNA, is that we're a multi-cloud organization. Everything that we do is to be able to support our customers regardless of where they are on their journey. Whether customers are explicitly on premises, where they are utilizing hybrid cloud strategies, or are completely running production and lifted and shifted 100% to the cloud. For us, it doesn't matter what you choose. It's about being able to protect natively and give you the best possible protection experience, regardless of what you're choosing. Another area as well is we have a global presence. We have more than 3,200 customers in over 78 countries. As you may have seen recently, we are backed by Bain Capital, a crew with strategic investments in Atlassian and Cisco investments. As I mentioned before, as a multi-cloud organization, being able to deliver purpose-built protection for on-prem, hybrid, and multi-cloud strategies, you are able to see some of the platforms and applications that we're able to support today. And usually when I refer to a HYCU customer, I refer to somebody wearing purple, right? So here are just a couple of our customers who are wearing purple. When we talk about disaster recovery, there's a high element of trust, right? We're talking about being able to protect and recover critical applications, the lifeblood, the power that power your business. Here are some of the organizations that trust us with their applications. And that's a growing number for us, and we feel very thankful for that. But it's because of the vision that we have, of our understanding of what are the challenges that you're facing as an organization for data protection, and how are we able to help you remain resilient despite whatever challenges and scenarios that you're seeing out there. So speaking of those challenges, let's take a look at where we stand today within the industry. If you're looking to protect, to fail over, to remain resilient today, what are you dealing with, and how are you able to cope with this? Now, there's a couple of things that will never change when it comes to disaster recovery, and it's really understanding some of the core areas of the threat landscape. These recovery scenarios have been around forever, and they will be around forever. And that is natural disasters, right? Hurricanes, floods, tornadoes. We're starting to see that there are many more geographies that are impacted by this than there used to be, right? There are people in Florida who've had BCDR strategies their entire careers, and these businesses are pretty mature in their approach to disaster recovery. But now you have other areas that are dealing with many more natural disasters as well. And these are new behaviors, new technologies that they have to address. Hardware failures is something that we've seen, and these outages are happening, whether that is on-premises or even in the public cloud. We know that regardless of where your applications are running, outages are a concern. Now, here is what has changed. 15, 20 years ago, you had centralized management and control of your applications that are running on-premises. But that's blown up today, right? We have hyper growth of not only the data, but the silos in which that data lives in. You have data on premise, you have data in the public cloud, you have cloud native workloads, you have SaaS applications all over. Things like work from home has only expanded the requirements of disparate workloads that your organization has had. So we know that there are additional challenges when I suddenly don't have full visibility of where my data is located. I need several tools, several services to be able to protect and recover this data. And that adds a lot of challenges, especially when we think about how rigorous of requirements and overhead there are for disaster recovery. And another key area is ransomware, right? We've seen a growth in both the severity and the volume of ransomware attacks. They are coming faster and they're becoming more dangerous. They are targeting our backups. They are targeting our DR technologies. 10 years ago, this was a backup only scenario. But as we've seen these attacks spread and become even more severe, ultimately you want to have DR and backup that's able to respond to a ransomware or any other type of cyber attack. So things have become even more challenging, not only in the threats that we're seeing, but also in how to manage the workloads and applications from those threats. So let's take a quick look at what's the evolution that we've seen of disaster recovery. This is the one that we're all familiar with, right? This is the traditional model where you had your primary data center and you had your DR target site. You had a secondary data center with kind of the same configuration, the same storage that was there just in case something happened. Usually you would only use it a couple times a year, but even if you're only using it a couple times a year, there is a ton of resource investment and overhead that is dedicated to this redundant facility, right? When you have to think about just not only from the DR solutions themselves that you're having to do so, the licensing, the storage, the capacity, the networking, the firewall infrastructure, and all these things that not only you have to pay for from a CapEx perspective and then face renewals for each of those, but you also have to train people, dedicate specific staff to these redundant operations. And this was a standard across the industry years ago. But now we're starting to see that is a lot of time, resource, and energy spent on just keeping the lights on. And the public cloud is offering a resilient infrastructure with essentially virtually unlimited scale that you're able to leverage. So now we're starting to see over the last couple of years, organizations go from taking baby steps to fully adopting the public cloud as target sites for both backup and disaster recovery as well. So that's where we're starting to see this model where organizations realize we can shift from a fully CapEx model to simply paying for the storage and the compute needed for a DR operation when that actually happens. And then you obviously pay for the DR service as well. But this gives you a lot of value and it kind of gives you one bill to manage and provide a lot of cost savings, but also more operational savings and simplicity. But this is just for those workloads that are still running premise on your primary data center. But what about those workloads that you've provisioned, that you've created natively within the public cloud, right? Your instances in AWS, in GCP, or in Azure. Now it's a little bit of a different technology. It's a different service, a different tool, a different skill set that you need to be able to do so. And that's when we're starting to see this new requirement for organizations to have not only high availability, but also disaster recovery in the public cloud to be able to recover cross-regionally, region to region, and utilize resilient infrastructure. You have a couple of choices on how to do this. You can kind of do it yourself with scripts and some of the tools that are offered natively, or you bring in a similar DR service that you were using for your on-prem or hybrid cloud strategy. Now that's where it gets tricky, because let's divide the challenges into two areas. Let's talk first about the challenge that you have for hybrid cloud, and then we'll get into the challenges around fully in the cloud. Now for hybrid cloud, you had your replication solution, your DR solution that you used to go from site A to site B on premises. This required a lot of work. These solutions required a lot of sizing, a lot of planning, installation, configuration to be able to work, and a lot of time and resource was devoted to them. So they can be extremely complex to use. When you're trying to unlock the simplicity and the operational benefits of the public cloud, it's very difficult to use these traditional legacy DR solutions to do just that, because they require so much management and upkeep in order to work effectively. And they're also not purpose-built for the public cloud, right? They're retrofitted. They're used with plugins and agents to be able to just make it work, to give you a good enough DR experience where you can use the public cloud as a target site. But we know that it's not built for the cloud. It's not a SaaS model, and you're bringing an antiquated technology to be able to solve for a modern platform, which is public cloud. So that's the challenge that you have with your hybrid cloud. But they also apply to those native instances that you have in the public cloud. Now, the first assumption, right, this was years ago where most people just assumed that the public cloud was responsible for their applications, not only from a backup perspective, but also from a resilience and DR perspective. Now, that quickly changed as people learned their lessons, and these public cloud providers provided shared responsibility models. But now you have two choices there as well. Well, you have three choices. One is to not protect it all, but we know that that is not a wise business or tech decision. But you can do it yourself, right? They offer tools, scripts, and services that you can use to kind of put together and perform basic cross-regional recovery. Or you can bring in that same on-premise solution that we're using that kind of provides a nice agent-based technology to be able to use in the cloud. But those are bringing in the same challenges, the same issues that you have with hybrid cloud using legacy technology, right? Why use such value, such operational excellence behind public cloud and bringing things that are actually going to slow you down and even include a performance impact? So now the real challenge here is you have the good problem in the sense that you have all this value that you can derive operationally and even unlock a lot of new technology. But the solutions that you have available to you to protect these applications are not equipped to give you those same benefits. They are not built for the cloud. They're not purpose-built. So with that in mind, you have to be very selective around how am I going to protect these workloads? Everything that I mentioned here also applies to traditional backup and recovery, not just disaster recovery as well. You kind of have to think of both of these in parallel. But you have to be very wise, very cautious about how am I going to pick the right platform? Or how am I going to pick the right service to be able to fail over to the cloud or protect applications in the cloud? And there's a couple key areas. The first one is it has to be purpose-built. This is non-negotiable. You need to utilize something that was actually built for the platforms that you're using and where you're trying to fail over to. You need to be able to leverage, for example, when you're doing cross-regional recovery, native snapshots, native scale, being able to even inherit security permissions as well. The other one is true SaaS. You cannot use a traditional either hardware appliance or perpetual-based agent-based solution for DR when you're looking at hybrid or multi-cloud disaster recovery. You need true software as a service that is simple, that does not need to be deployed, that doesn't require lengthy installation, sizing, or planning, something that you can simply subscribe to, start protecting after you discover your applications, and become resilient. And as I mentioned before, your organization is changing, your needs are changing. So what you used to have on premises, and then you started taking baby steps into the public cloud, you know that you're potentially going to leverage a multi-cloud strategy. This is what we're seeing in the industry. So you need to make sure that the service, that the platform that you're trusting with your data will be able to support you now, but also in the future. And especially for larger organizations, larger IT environments, self-service and multi-tenancy are critical. You do not want to be the only person responsible for performing every single backup operation, every single DR operation, especially if you're able to use a simple solution to solve for that. You want to be able to extend, provide role-based access control, and ultimately still know that this service was designed with security first in mind. Not only are we talking about the copies of the data itself, but also are you leveraging single sign-on, multi-factor authentication? Are you following best practices, right? These are the critical things that you have to look for when it comes to finding the right data protection service. Now, with that in mind, let's talk about how HYCU Protégé is able to help you on your journey from an on-premises environment to hybrid cloud to even a multi-cloud environment. So how would I describe HYCU Protégé, right? You have to think about it in one sentence. What HYCU Protégé is an application and database-aware backup, DR, and mobility service platform that's going to be able to support you throughout your cloud journey, where your environment is today and where it would be in the future. So for those organizations that are still leveraging a fully on-premises strategy, you still have diverse platform support, still purpose-built solutions for Nutanix, VMware, Dell PowerScale, where you're able to perform backup, DR, and migrations. Now you may think, well, this is what I have in my environment now, but I'm thinking about moving to the cloud. How do I leverage HYCU Protege to do so? Well, you can leverage HYCU to be able to seamlessly perform a failover to the public cloud. Apologies. You can leverage HYCU to seamlessly fail over to GCP, Azure, and AWS. And you don't have to pay additionally for backup or for DR. You're able to perform your backups and your DRs for one place without any additional charges. Now, this is where a lot of organizations, and probably the audience today, has a hybrid cloud strategy. But what about those folks, especially the brave ones, the early adopters, who've been able to go fully in the cloud? They're running production in the cloud. And there maybe you already have a multi-cloud strategy. Well, HYCU is able to give you multi-cloud support. It's still agentless, that's still purpose-built, and is delivered to you as a true 100% SaaS offering. This is a critical element here. And one of the things that I want to emphasize, if you get anything out of today, and if it's one thing that you remember, is that HYCU Protege will give you purpose-built native protection, DR and backup, regardless of where you are, on-prem, hybrid, or multi-cloud. And that's a critical element of what we'll talk about. One of the things that we mentioned at the beginning was this hyper-growth of data. But you also have this data in different silos. And in the past, you think about it, you've inherited several backup solutions, several DR solutions, and now you have fully on-premise workloads, applications running there on VMware. You have some applications running maybe in Azure and then some on GCP. They all need disaster recovery. And now you've got different tools, different services, even scripts to be able to manage those, and just to keep things at bay, to keep the lights on. Where HYCU really differentiates as well, especially as a full organization for yourself, is that you're able to protect, manage, recover, fail over your applications, regardless of the platform where they are, from one single place. Whether that is Nutanix, VMware, Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure, AWS, Microsoft 365, you're able to have one single management interface to perform your operations, to have complete visibility, all in one space. This saves you time, this saves you energy. Imagine having to perform different installations, configurations, and then also have to manage disparate DR data protection services for different workloads. That is a nightmare. That sets you back as an organization, and that just adds unnecessary overhead for something that's a reactive activity. So let's take a look a little bit more at not only what are the key capabilities that we have, but how we're able to differentiate ourselves in the marketplace. So the key capabilities, when we're talking about, you have your applications running on premises and you are looking to leverage the public cloud as a target site. Well, with HYCU Protege, you're able to not only back up, but also perform your DR to the cloud seamlessly. We like to refer to it as one-click simplicity, because at any moment in time, you have your applications there ready for you to perform a failover at any point in time. This should be something that's very simple and easy to use across your organization. Once again, this is allowing you to replace the redundant secondary sites and able to fully leverage not only the scale, but also the operational benefits of the public cloud. But there are a lot of organizations that can actually do this, and they can do this pretty well. How does HYCU differentiate? Well, the way that we differentiate, especially when we're talking on-prem to cloud, is that you're leveraging purpose-built protection for your on-prem workloads. Meaning Nutanix, VMware, Dell, where you're running these applications, you're doing it using native capabilities that were designed for those platforms. And then you're also utilizing a native approach to the public cloud as well. So you're not running into any agents, any plugins. You're simply being able to utilize native services throughout that entire journey, from failover on-premise to data running in the cloud. One of my favorite areas about this is being able to have application-aware, application-consistent recovery. This is crucial, not only in backup, but especially in disaster recovery. You want to have a complete application-centric approach. Not only are you able to protect applications consistently within HYCU Protege, but you also have auto discovery to have a full understanding immediately and inherit and understand exactly where your applications are and how can you start protecting them immediately using HYCU Protege. Now that's hybrid cloud. Let's talk about cross-regional DR. You've got native instances in the public cloud. What can you do? Well, not only can you protect them, can you perform file, folder, VM level recoveries, but you can also perform cross-regional recovery as well for GCP, AWS, and Azure. You also have full at-a-glance complete visibility and reporting. Now, once again, you can perform cross-regional recovery using the tools that are provided by these cloud providers. But what's different about what HYCU can do? Well, first and foremost, it's 100% SaaS service. This is a managed service that is automating your ability to protect, manage, recover, and fail over your data. You do not have to run a script. You do not have to manually perform integrations. You simply discover the instances that you want to protect, and you will assign policies from a backup perspective, and you can simply perform a cross-regional recovery immediately. This is something that offloads a lot of the DIY requirements of public cloud cross-regional recovery. Another key differentiator here, it was also purpose-built in cloud native. Many other solutions are able to help you bring in a cross-regional recovery, but they're using agents, they're using on-prem based technologies. But ultimately, this was also, because it's cloud native, because it's using native snapshots, you also have a cloud smart design that's balanced for any region that you're utilizing. So with that in mind, we talked about the value of HYCU Protege for hybrid cloud, right? Being able to fail over to the public cloud, but also being able to perform cross-regional recovery in the public cloud. But as a quick final summary and key takeaways of what HYCU Protege can do for your organization, as we mentioned, everyone on this call is going to be at a different journey, and we want to make sure that we're able to protect your applications and provide resilience, cyber resilience for you, regardless of where you are. And so a key takeaway here, if you're thinking, or if you're just looking for now to protect your applications on premises, you're able to use HYCU Protege with diverse platform support that's agentless. You can perform DR migrations to the public cloud. If you're already thinking actively of performing hybrid cloud, having a hybrid cloud strategy, you're able to immediately get up and running and perform seamless failovers to the public cloud with no additional install requirements. If you're now thinking about lifting and shifting to the public cloud, we offer migration capabilities within the product as well, but we're also thinking about multi-cloud native protection. You can manage all of your instances in Azure, AWS, and GCP from one place with purpose-built protection for each one, and you're able to perform cross-regional recoveries across each one from the same management interface. And then ultimately, as we mentioned, ransomware is a tricky one. Ransomware attacks, we've seen organizations be able to recover using their backups, and organizations recover using DR. At HYCU Protege, you have a converged DR and backup experience, and regardless of what you do, we have a security-first design to make sure that not only are you using MFA, single sign-on, that you're inheriting identity access management in the public cloud, but that you're also protecting and ransomware proofing is what we call it your backups, meaning immutability and air gap backups to make sure that they are unaltered. So ultimately, what we're talking about here is HYCU Protege gives you full resilience, full backup, DR, and mobility, regardless of where your applications are and what your strategy. It's about supporting you on a cloud strategy that works for you and the needs of your business. And because of that, and you might have seen this announcement recently, is why we were recognized as a visionary in the Gartner Magic Quadrant. Because of our approach of not just focusing on one single platform and then creating solutions and plugins with agents to support the rest because it makes business sense, but actually taking the time, identifying the design requirements and purpose building protection for each of these workloads so that you don't have to sacrifice performance and sacrifice simplicity to unlock the value of the public cloud. It's about making sure that you have a partner here versus something that's setting you back. And that's why we were recognized as a visionary. And we're very excited about that. But as you mentioned, this is somebody on a webinar telling you to find this great service and platform that HYCU Protege offers. But there's nothing better than being able to test it for yourself, to be able to get up and running in minutes and be able to see, oh, here's an auto discovery of my applications. Here's how easy it is to assign a policy. Here's how easy it is to perform a failover. And to be able to see that is priceless. And that's why if you scan this, you're able to register at tryhycu.com and be able to unlock the value of HYCU Protege. You can do a trial for the public cloud, or you can do a trial for your on-premises platforms as well, for VMware, Nutanix, Dell, PowerScale. The trials are also available on Azure, AWS, and GCP. So I'll give you a little bit of time to be able to scan this, and we will also send the link out during the webinar. But with that, I know we have a little bit of time for questions, so I want to bring Matt back on to make sure we address your questions.
Right. Hopefully we didn't lose everyone to that free trial, but for those of you that are still around, let's dive into a few questions, and apologies in advance to everyone whose question we don't get to. We will follow up personally, don't worry. All right, so the first one, Andy, do you have to pay for DR separately if you're using HYCU for backups already?
Yeah, so I actually briefly mentioned that, but I think it always glosses over because of how valuable this is. Most organizations, especially when you look at either backup or DR solutions, will upcharge you to include a backup or a DR operation. When you utilize HYCU Protege, you are getting everything that HYCU Protege offers, what you've seen today, which is backup, DR, and mobility within the same platform.
Right. And that's huge, especially as you get more and more into the cloud, it just becomes kind of unwieldy at that point without a solution like that. So what sort of reporting and notifications does HYCU offer to help me keep track of my DR strategy?
Yeah, absolutely. I think especially when we're talking about instances in the cloud, visibility can be a huge challenge, whether it's backup or disaster recovery. Where are my VMs? Did this recovery happen? Are they being protected? Is this job running? What you're able to do with HYCU is simply enable notifications, and we'll tell you the good things, when things are working and when things are not working. So you're able to get that along with custom reporting, especially if you need to provide this to management and to provide test results. It's critical to be able to always be able to enable notifications and reporting as well.
All right, and the last one we'll have time for is a great question for anyone who has concerns around data privacy regulation issues. But does HYCU store my data for me?
Yeah, this is a huge concern, especially in the public cloud, where you have organizations who are distrustful because many of these providers or backup services, DR services, host data for you, and that adds a lot of issues from a security and compliance perspective. HYCU does not store your data, so you don't have to go through these barriers. You're able to simply use the storage that you have. You still have full management and control. We're simply automating and making life easier for you from a DR and backup perspective.
All right. Well, I think that brings us to just about time. So give a few seconds back to everyone. But I want to thank Andy for the great presentation and sharing all his insights into disaster recovery today and HYCU. And I want to thank the audience as well for attending and the great questions. So please feel free to follow up, check out the free trial, read more about us in the Gartner Magic Quadrant, and hopefully we'll hear some more from you, Andy, in the future.
Thanks, Matt.
All right. Thanks, everyone.